I am a cat lover.
Looking zazzy as hell today.
Hello, and welcome to the Cheugy Show, where you are free to be all the things that you want to be, including being very, very cheugy, which means you are not cool. Basically, you're not trendy, but we're not trying to be. So yeah, we're not trying to. We're just trying to survive out here in the world. Wow, so the reason I'm not even having myself on screen right now is because I wasn't preparing to go live, but apparently the Twitter files, they just decide to come and go as they please, and they never tell us when they're gonna be like, oh hey, yeah, let's go live, people. Let's go live. Let's say all the things, but we're just not gonna tell people when we're gonna go live, and we're gonna say all the things. I mean, it's kind of rude. It's just kind of rude. So I'm not, my hair and everything is not decent enough for me to go live, and I'm going to be just cheugy enough that I'm going to say I don't want to go live when I don't look beautific. Okay, so yeah. But I digress. I digress. So yeah, as I said, they decided at the last possible minute when it was that they were going to go live with this, and we are just kind of at their mercy and finding out when it is that they're gonna do this. I know, it's like I said, it's rude, just rude. Like, cheugy people like me have nothing better to do with their time. And we might also briefly talk about what's the newest with Amber Heard, but first, Twitter Files Part 7 from Michael Schellenbarger. The FBI and Hunter Biden laptop. How the FBI and intelligence community discredited factual information about Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings, both after and before the New York Post revealed the contents of his laptop on October 14th, 2020. Wow. So even before, that's interesting. In Twitter File 6, we saw the FBI relentlessly seek to exercise influence over Twitter, including over its contents, its users, and its data. Facts. You
like that? You like that?
We totally like it.
You like that? You like that?
Yes. Yes, we like it when we hear about all the things. And that there are facts and there are receipts. In Twitter Files number 7, we present evidence pointing to an organized effort by representatives of the intelligence community aimed at senior executives at news and social media companies to discredit leaked information about Hunter Biden before and after it was published. That's just wrong. Wrong. Should do that shit. But the media wants me to think that,
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
They want us to believe that. They want us to believe that we are kind of retarded, even though we're clearly not. That's okay. That is an insult to retarded people everywhere. Yeah. So apparently, if we understand the truth here of what's going on, then apparently we are as smart as, retarded people, I guess. But I'm not retarded. I'm just...
I am a cat lover.
Yes. Yep. Wow. So the story begins in December 2019. When a Delaware computer store owner named John Paul Mac Isaac, what a name. I think he shortens it to JP apparently. JP Mac Isaac. John Paul Mac Isaac. I mean, my cat has a really long name. I refer to him as Maverick Daniel Finnegan Warner. So, because as mentioned,
I am a cat lover.
Yeah. Crazy cat lady over here who gives her cats really stupidly long names. Okay. Funny way to digress. On December 9th, 2019, the FBI issued a subpoena for and takes Hunter Biden's laptop. So there's a link here. And that is, I guess, one of the original stories here that they're talking about. Some interesting pictures. I guess this is for the cost of fixing the laptop. So see that to testify for a grand jury. Okay. It's 2019. The FBI takes Hunter Biden's laptop. By August 2020, Mac Isaac still had not heard back from the FBI, even though he discovered evidence of criminal activity. Dun 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 dun. And so he emails Rudy Giuliani, who was under FBI surveillance at the time. In early October, Giuliani gives it to the New York Post. So there's that. I guess that's how the New York Post knew about all of it, was through Giuliani. Shortly before 7 p.m. Eastern Time on October 13th, Hunter Biden's lawyer, George Maziers, emails JP, Hunter, and Maziers had just learned from the New York Post that its story about the laptop would be published the next day. John Paul, thank you for speaking with me tonight. As I indicated, I'm a lawyer for Hunter Biden. I appreciate you bringing your records on this matter. Thank you. Hunter, I just learned from the New York Post that the story about the laptop will be published the next day. At 9:20 p.m. Eastern Time, FBI Special Agent Elvis Chan sends 10 documents to Twitter's then head of site integrity, Yoel Roth, through Teleport, a one-way communication channel from FBI to the Twitter. Why the... See, I didn't even remember this part, that they had their own little special portal, a one-way... And it sounds like something. So I don't. If it's one way, then I guess it's something that they can communicate to them, but the Twitter people can't communicate with the FBI. I don't know. Anyway, here's the email. Heads up, I'll be sending a Teleport link for you to download 10 documents. It is not spam. Please confirm receipt when you get it. Thanks. And Roth said received and downloaded. Thanks. The next day, October 14th, 2020, the New York Post runs its explosive story revealing business dealings with President Joe Biden's son, Hunter, every single fact, and it was accurate. And yet within hours, Twitter and other social media companies censored the New York Post article, preventing it from spreading and, more importantly, undermining its credibility and the minds of many Americans. Why is that? What exactly happened? On December 2nd, @M.Taibbi described the debate inside Twitter of a decision to censor a wholly accurate article. Since then, we have discovered new info that points to an organized effort by the intel community to influence Twitter and other platforms. Ooh-wee. See, at this point, Facebook's going, please keep us out of this. Please keep us out of this. Just can we be removed from the conversation? Because we want to be removed from this conversation, and they're not getting removed from the conversation. First, it's important to understand that Hunter Biden earned tens of millions of dollars in contracts with foreign businesses, including one linked to China's government, for which Hunter offered no real work. Tens of millions for doing nothing, according to them. Here's an interview by investigative journalist Peter Schweider. Ooh, we have to read this. We have to read all the things, or we have to listen to it.
So, for example, well, what we know is that the Biden family has benefited from commercial deals overseas to the tune of tens of millions of dollars. That's not in dispute. That's based on the so-called suspicious activity reports that the Treasury Department has released because a U.S. Senate committee asked for it. These documents show the flow of funds from Russian, Ukrainian, and Chinese sources, among others. So we know there's been a flow of funds. We also know that the people sending that money have very close relationships with the government. So in the case of China, for example, which I believe is the most troubling of the group of foreign donors, you can actually look on the Hunter Biden laptop and find the businessmen who secured these deals for Hunter Biden. There are four gentlemen that are named. If you look at those four gentlemen, each and every one of them has close ties to the highest levels of Chinese intelligence. So, for example, one gentleman who he calls the super chairman, at the same time that Hunter Biden secures a deal with him that translates into about $20 million, that same Chinese businessman is business partners with the Vice Minister of State Security in China, who is responsible for foreign recruitments. This has been reported in Hong Kong. This is not just Peter Schweitzer saying it. So you have the flow of funds. You have the flow of funds from foreign parties that are linked to the government and intelligence services. And then you have the third component of this, which is there's no discernible service or product or anything that Hunter Biden has brought to the table. So the question has to be asked, why are foreign actors like these four businessmen in China arranging deals worth tens of millions of dollars to the Bidens and not getting anything in return? And what's important to point out here is that Hunter Biden is the one who's the signatory on these deals, but the laptop also shows that money is fungible within the Biden family. We know that $2 million that arrived from China ended up with his uncle, James Biden. And we also know that Hunter Biden paid some of his father's bills while he was vice president of the United States. So this is not a Hunter Biden question. This is a larger Biden family question.
Now, one of the things that I hear from Democrats is that they say, well, you know, this is kind of common. And look, the Trump family had all sorts of business dealings with Russia. Is that true?
So the Trump family does actually have some deals in China, although they kind of were unwinding. And I raised questions about that and some of the finance deals that Jared Kushner was involved in the Middle East. And those need scrutiny. They need analysis. And by the way, they were scrutinized by the mainstream media. So that's a good thing. The Biden deals weren't, but there's also a crucial difference here in my mind. And that is the deals that the Trumps had with China, the one that really translated into money was a deal that Ivanka Trump had for the manufacturing of shoes and other things in her apparel line. That was a line started, 10, 15 years ago. My point being, those were actual legitimate businesses that predate any involvement in. You certainly need to watch them and be aware of them and take them into account. With the Bidens, we're not talking about that. Hunter Biden, after his father becomes vice president of the United States, suddenly decides he's going to go into international finance, ill-defined. He has no background. He has no experience. And he's not doing deals in London or Tokyo. He immediately goes to Russia, China, and Ukraine for those deals. So I believe all foreign deals should be scrutinized. But
Absolutely.
you have to differentiate, in my mind, the difference between, say, Michael Bloomberg, who his company Bloomberg has major business dealings in China, which need to be watched. But that's a legitimate business. You cannot compare that to Rosemont Seneca Partners, which is, frankly, in a large extent, a fictitious business entity that was funneling money to Hunter Biden and his family.
Now, what about Trump's relationship with Russia?
Well, there was no question. There were discussions, and there was a sort of verbal agreement to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, but there was no real exchange of money in that case. And again, I would say, look, that deserves scrutiny, but Donald Trump actually has built hotels and condos around the world. Certainly, it's not appropriate to be doing that while you're a candidate or president of the United States. But to somehow put that in a nefarious light when you're ignoring a business that has no history that predates your father being vice president of the United States, and you have zero track record in it, I don't think you can compare those two very effectively. Tony Bobulinski is credible because he provides the actual communications, the comms that took place. I've actually seen the BlackBerries and the phones where this correspondence took place, and it's very straightforward. Number one, Bobulinski released to the Senate and gave to the FBI correspondence that I've seen that shows clearly that they were not to discuss Joe Biden's involvement in the business. There are actual correspondence that Tony Bobulinski has with the business partners where they say, don't bring up the father's name, don't discuss the father in the context of the deals. The family's very skittish about it. In other words, the partners did not say he's not involved. There's a Chinese wall, so to speak, that divides him from these deals. It was, don't discuss it. And then you have correspondence when they're discussing a deal with CEFC. This is a Chinese energy company that is going to be setting up a Chinese energy infrastructure fund in the United States. That the ownership structure is such that 10% was going to be given to Hunter to caretake for the big guy. There's lots of correspondence on the laptop and in Tony Bobulinski's communications where the big guy is the reference for Joe Biden. So that's the first thing to consider. The second thing to consider is there is lots of evidence on the laptop that Joe Biden was familiar with his son's deals, and it's worth looking at kind of the evolution.
Of course it was. Of course, how could he not be familiar?
When I first broke the story in my book, Secret Empires in 2018 about the Biden family's deals in China,
I think whether you're the president of the United States,
there were no deals. There's nothing to see here.
Whether you're president of the United States or not, you talk with your parents about these things. You talk, sometimes casually, maybe not in a whole great detail, but the idea that he didn't know is just stupid. Just completely stupid.
18 about the Biden family's deals in China. The initial Biden response was, there were no deals. There's nothing to see here. This is fabricated. Then when it was confirmed that, okay, yes, there were deals in China, Joe Biden's position became, well, I never discussed those matters with my son, any of these business dealings. We now know, of course, that Joe Biden flew his son on Air Force Two to China, where Hunter Biden met with those Chinese.
Just so you know, when they think of you all, this is what they assume. This is what they assume about all of us.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Yeah, that's really what they think of us. They think that we're all retarded. They think that we're all retarded. But the truth is told that
Looking zazzy as hell today.
we are Sassy and we are Cheugy. And we are proud.
Chinese business partners. And we also know on the laptop that, in fact, there are references to Hunter Biden saying to his business partners, I talked to my father about this deal and he's going to help. So now they've shifted from saying there were no deals, Joe Biden didn't know about the deals, to Joe Biden didn't benefit from those deals or did nothing to help these deals along. And my point is, this is what you need an investigation for. Look, we've got the transference of millions of dollars for no services rendered. Nobody's disputing that. We know the individuals who transferred this money have connections to foreign intelligence services. We know that Joe Biden and his son Hunter Biden are close. They communicate all the time. They're not estranged. And we know that there are questions about
really internalize it and understand what he's saying. It just goes.
So my view has always been,
it just goes from bad to worse.
This warrants investigation. I'm not saying a crime's been committed. I don't know. I'm not saying that Joe Biden is on the take from the Chinese. We don't know. But I do believe that this deserves serious investigation by a body like a congressional committee that has subpoena power. And it seems to me, if we are prepared to investigate Donald Trump based on an anonymous dossier, and by the way, at least the first 5 or 6 months, I supported that investigation. But if we're prepared to investigate that, Iran-Contra, Bill Clinton and Whitewater, this is much higher in terms of the threshold of evidence and information we have that warrants a look and warrants a subpoena power effort to find out exactly what is going on here.
I was kissing Valentino by crystal blue Italian stream, but I can't be late, then I guess I just won't get paid. These are the days when you wish your bed was already made. It's just another manic Monday. Wish it was Sunday. That's my Monday. Mine on a different day. It's just another manic Monday.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, here we go. And yet, during all of 2020, the FBI and other law enforcement agencies repeatedly primed your Roth to dismiss the report of Hunter's Biden's Russian active leak operation. This is from a sworn declaration by Roth given in December 20. How did I miss this? How did I miss fucking any of this? Ugh. How did we miss any of this? How? How? I want to know. Ugh. It's from a sworn declaration by Roth given in December. Since 2018, I have had regular meetings with the Office of Director of National Intelligence, the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, and industry peers regarding election security. During these weekly meetings, the federal law enforcement agencies communicated they expected hack and leak operations by state actors might occur in the period shortly before the 2020 election, likely in October. I was told in these meetings that the intelligence community expected that individuals associated with political campaigns would be subject to a hacking attacks, and that material obtained through those hacking attacks will likely be disseminated over social media platforms. I mean, yeah, fair, including Twitter. These expectations of hack and leak operations were discussed throughout 2020. I also learned in these meetings that there was rumors that a hack and leak operation would involve Hunter Biden.
Well, what we know is.
And I'm gonna have to. There's probably more here, but I gotta go in and out of it to get it to update. No, that's it for now. Don't do this to us, man. Okay, here we go. They did the same thing to Facebook, according to CEO Mike Zuckerberg. The FBI basically comes to us and was like, hey, you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in 2016. There's about to be some kind of dump similar to that.
Just so you know, the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like, you should be on high alert. We thought there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. The background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey.
Unbelievable. I remember this kind of coming out, and really the government did not cover this all that much. They didn't really say a whole, not the government, the media kind of ignored this when Zuckerberg came out. They kind of ignored this. You didn't really hear too much about it. I remember hearing a lot about it on social media because people were going, what, WTF? You know, there was lots of thoughts about what that implied and what might have actually happened, but were the FBI warnings to Russian hack and leak operations related to Hunter based on any new intel? No, they weren't. Why would they? Why would they? I mean, were they enjoying that?
You like that? You like that?
They probably didn't like that. But, you know, facts, they're messy things, people. They're messy things. Because sometimes they come to light. Through our investigations, we did not see any similar competing intrusions to what happened in 2016. Here's some. I believe this might be an affidavit. Maybe when he testified before Congress. So the question was, something 2020 election, is that right? For those USG industry meetings, yes. Were hack and dump operations discussed at those meetings, or hack and leak operations? Yes, they were. Tell me what's discussed about them at those meetings. The contents of hack and dump is what was the FBI and the CISA doing to prevent hack and dump operations. So from the FBI side, I think I already alluded to you that we had the Protective Voices Initiative. I can't remember the specifics, but CISA has also discussed its cybersecurity awareness efforts as well as grants efforts with the state, country, and local level elected officials. Did anyone at these meetings tell the industry participants to expect a Russian hack and dump operation or a hack and leak operation shortly before the 2020 election? Mr. Sure, objection, last foundation. When this, from my recollection, I remember that the FBI warned that I or someone from the FBI warned social media companies about the potential for a 2016 style DNC hack and dump operation. Question by Mr. Sauer. What exactly did you say to the social media companies about that? Essentially what I just told you. He said that there might be a Russian hack and dump operation. So what I said was that although we have not seen any computer intrusions into national level political committees or elected officials or presidential campaigns at this time, we ask you to remain vigilant about the potential for hack and dump operations or something to that effect. Did you specifically refer to the 2016 hack and dump operation that targeted the DCCC and the DNC? I believe I did. To provide any basis to the social media platforms for thinking that such an operation might be coming. The basis was, my basis was it had happened once and it could happen again. Did you have any other specific information other than it happened 4 years earlier? Mr. Sure objected, and I'm so far objection insofar as answer calls from the law enforcement privilege information you can answer if you can without divulging the law enforcement privilege as any particular information. Through our investigation, we did not see any similar competing intrusions to what had happened in 2016. So, although from our standpoint we had not seen anything, we specifically, in an abundance of caution, warned the companies in a case they saw something that we did not. By Mr. Sauer. So, did you ask the companies if they had seen any attempts at intrusions or unauthorized access? This is something that I regularly ask the companies in the course of our meetings. Did you ask them in those meetings? Not every, but I believe I asked them at some meetings. And did you please warn them that these meetings that you were anticipated there might be hack and dump operation, Russian initiated hack and dump operations? Objection vague, assume facts not on the record. So repeatedly, I would say, can you ask your question like, what do you mean by repeatedly? Like 100 times, 500 times? I was, well, did you do it more than once? I did it more, yes. I warned the companies about a potential for a hack and dump operation of the Russians and the Iranians on more than one occasion, although I cannot recollect how many times. Did anybody else at the FBI talk about hack and dump Russian operations? My recollection, other senior officials, to include Section Chief Danlov, likely mentioned the possibility of hack and dump. Do you remember Section Chief Danlov mentioning it? I said that I believe she mentioned it on at least one occasion. What did she say? Indeed, Twitter executives repeatedly reported very little Russian activity. On September 24, 2020, Twitter told FBI it removed around 345 largely inactive accounts linked to previous coordinated Russian hacking attempts. They had little reach and low follower counts. Okay, interesting, I guess. They certainly didn't want them to be having too much. Hey, Sheeple Hunter. How's it going? E.g., on September 24, 2020, Twitter told FBI to remove through those accounts, blah, blah, blah. Let's see what this was. I hope you're having a good day. Thanks for joining. So, let's do this. Hi, Elvis. We hope you are well. We want to let you know about actions that we plan to publicly announce in the next hour. Oh my goodness. As you are aware, we are working with you and Facebook to permanently suspend accounts we can reliably attribute to Russia. Thank you for your ongoing cooperation and information sharing. See what? That people don't understand that the issue is that kind of information that they may have been sharing with the FBI, what it means about their cooperation. there's just this whole complicated gray area about everything that the government and social media companies do. It's just, there are times when it becomes problematic. Like when they try to cover up the whole, Hunter Biden laptop thing. It's like, oh, yeah, that wasn't a hack. Anyway, I digress. We are moving to distinct networks of accounts which we can rather attribute to state-linked Russian and state-linked entities in Russia. Our investigations are ongoing. The first network of accounts, totaling approximately 345, were largely inactive. Like, okay, if they're largely inactive, then why are they even a threat? Like, why are we even worried about them? When linked to previous coordinated Russian hacking attempts, most of the content shared by these accounts expressed views designed to advance Russia's geopolitical interests. You think that we don't have accounts that try to advance the United States geopolitical interests? If you believe that, I have a bridge I can sell you in New York. The second network of accounts, totaling approximately 10, purported to be associated with a website called United World International, which publishes a range of content about current global and U.S. political issues. Links to United World International will be blocked on Twitter under our unsafe links policy detailed here. Wow. The accounts included this enforcement action had little reach and follower accounts. We plan to send you /FITF relevant account information at the conclusion of our investigation. Please let us know if you have any questions. So many questions. So many questions. Like, United World International, who even the hell are they? And why are you you just have to be careful when a private company goes, oh yeah, we'll block this information just because the government tells us to, because the government is just so trustworthy. So frustrating. So frustrating. I have a pillow that during these Twitter documents, I regularly have to scream into the pillow because I'm just like, And I know that somewhere there is a judge that's going, fuck, this is going to wind up in my courtroom because you people wanted to fuck around and find out what happens when you tell social media companies, we really wish you wouldn't publish this, that, and the other on your accounts. And they go along with it. Jesus, Joseph, and Mary. Anyway, I digress. Excellent. Thanks for the heads up. That was from Supervisory Special Agent Squad C1, CY1 in San Francisco. Elvis Chan. Making America safe. One security suspicious link after another. In fact, Twitter debunked false claims by journalists of foreign influence on its platform. We haven't seen any evidence to support that claim. By one _ at NBC News, a foreign control bots. Our views thus far show a small-scale domestic troll effort. So, from our brave FBI agent in San Francisco, Elvis Chan, out of abundance of caution, I wanted to reach out to you about this news story. The second part of this article focuses on DC blackout campaign and its potential being driven by foreign control bots. Anything we should be aware concerning this topic? Thanks. Oh. What? I don't even know what it is that they were looking for Twitter to be able to tell them. The second part of the article focuses on the DC blackout campaign and its potential to being driven by foreign-controlled bots. Anything we should be aware of concerning this topic? Hi, Elvis. We haven't seen any evidence to support that claim. Our review thus far shows a small-scale domestic troll effort that was amplified in some creative ways by real people, but not a significant bot or foreign angle. Oh, okay. So they debunked some things the journalists said about foreign stuff. White national group posing as Antifa called for violence on Twitter. Other misinformation and misleading claims were spread across Twitter on Sunday night and into Monday related to the protests. Huh. Well, I hope that you have a good day as well, Sheeple Hunter. Thanks for stopping by. After FBI asked about a WAPO story on alleged foreign influence and a pro-Trump tweet, Twitter says the article makes a lot of insinuations, but we saw no evidence that was the case here, and in fact, a lot of strong evidence pointing in the other direction. Interesting. Interesting. And you gotta wonder if they were just fishing and that they knew that was going to be the Yolroth's response, and they were just fishing. You wonder. You wonder if they really were not surprised at all by Yolroth saying that. But they just wanted to know if there was something else that they need to be aware of. I don't know. I just feel like that they were asking questions that they likely knew the answer to, in my opinion. So this has got to be updated. Oh, gotta respond to a message here. Alright, so let's see. This is now caught up and up to date. After FBI asked about a WAPO story on alleged foreign influence and a pro-Trump tweet, Twitter says the article makes a lot of situations, and we've read that. Come on, keep up, Twitter. Interesting. But this was a. I came across an article in Washington Post that referenced Twitter's removal of the account. We went dim to repub due to violation of policy. Race divisions highlighted disinformation. Okay. According to the article on the eve of the Republican National Convention, prominent African Americans challenged allegations of racism against President Trump and retweeted the following message. I've been a Democrat my whole life. I joined the BLM protests months ago when they began. They opened my eyes wide. I didn't realize I became a Marxist. It happened without me even knowing it. I'm done with this trash. I'll be registering Republican. So they had a specific policy that they felt that information they had. At the time of suspension, was Twitter able to attribute this account to any of its activity to any particular country? This is so weird. What was wrong with this person's tweet? What did they violate? I don't understand. Election integrity? And was this really an example of being targeted? So many questions. It's not the first time that Twitter's Roth has pushed back against the FBI. In January 2020, Roth resisted FBI efforts to get Twitter to share data outside of the normal search warrant process. My colleagues at the Fort had a query for you. I provided to you below. A few years ago, Twitter said they would no longer provide their data feed to members of the IC. My colleagues wanted to know if that policy has changed or if you're willing to change it. My colleagues are currently contracting with a vendor for an analytic tool for open source intelligence, only publicly available data. The commercial version of this tool includes the Twitter data feed. However, the feed was disabled because the vendor said they did not want to violate their terms of service with Twitter. My colleagues are wondering if Twitter would be open to revising its terms of service to allow this vendor to continue having access to the Twitter feed. My colleagues are happy to meet in person and discuss this issue with you if you like. Huh. As discussed, here's my suggestion response. Of course, feel free to tweak it, edit it, but I tried to hit on the major points. At this point, we don't think a call directly with your colleague at the fort is the best path forward. As a rule, we're not able to directly discuss data licensing relationships with third parties, such as the customers of our data customers. Such as both due to confidentiality reasons and limited information on our end about the business decisions that may have led one of our customers to decline to provide service to the government. We also have a long-standing policy prohibiting the use of our data, products, and APIs for surveillance and intelligence gathering purposes, which we would not deviate from. But yet you were doing it constantly. Like, what the hell? And it's like when you're asking them, well, do you know whether or not this was from a foreign country? You were basically doing that. You were helping them with intelligence gathering purposes. Ultimately, we want to be good partners to government and help combat our shared threats, but the best path for the NSA or any other for NSA or any part of the government to request information about Twitter users or their contents is in accordance with a valid legal process. But it hasn't really sounded to me like that they've done that. Pressure had been going. We have seen a sustained if uncoordinated effort by the IC intelligence community to push us to share more info and change our API policies. They have probably been pushing it everywhere they can, including by whispering to congressional staff. I agree with caution here. We have seen a sustained, if uncoordinated, effort by the intelligence community to push us to share more information and change our API policies. They are probably pushing everywhere they can, including by whispering to congressional staff. We should stay connected and keep a solid front against these efforts. My sense from the exchange below is that Elvis is sending a message he was asked to, but that he doesn't feel ownership of it, and a polite discussion will suffice to answer the mail here. Do we know which commercial provider is being referenced here by the clues offered? Do we feel like there is any additional guidance we can give those companies that could help clarify our rules and minimize their efforts to point back at our API rules where they fear pressure from the government? It seems that Data Miner has gotten that message clearly, but we keep getting additional queries from elsewhere. Oh my word. Time and again, FBI asked Twitter for evidence of foreign influence. Twitter responds that they aren't finding anything worth reporting. We haven't yet identified the activity that we typically refer to or even flag as interesting in the foreign influence context. Hi, team. We're continuing to closely monitor the situation, and we haven't yet seen anything that's in line with Senator Rubio's tweet. We've heard that the tweet may have been based on miscommunication between the Senate Intelligence Committee staff and Graphica that they employ for narrative analysis and investigation, but we haven't gotten any specifics beyond that. At this stage, my team's finds have largely been that U.S.-based trolling groups are behind some of the on-platform violative activity and least of information we've seen. While much of this violates our terms of service, we haven't yet identified activity that we typically refer to you or even flag as interesting in the foreign influence context. We're still investigating some of the new developments this morning involving Anonymous, such as opt-out theaters, which focused on a referencing of old Jeff Epstein-related court documents. As always, if there's anything you become aware of that might be interesting, please feel free to flag to us and any source signal on these issues is much appreciated. Thanks. Hi, Elvis and team. We wanted to briefly follow up one of our first review. I first want to apologize for any confusion here. A tooling bug on our end resulted in one of the accounts not being correctly enrolled in our authenticity checks, which is why you saw it stay online even after the others came down. We fixed that issue. Beyond that, to the extent FITF is able to share information with the source of these accounts, even at a very high level, i.e. sources from USG information, sources from researchers outside the USG who do not have access to classified information, etc., it would be much appreciated. While the account showed some signs of inauthenticity, they were so clear-cut on our end that they trigger a proactive referral of associated contents or content to the group. We don't, at this time, have clear indication that they are foreign in origin. I recognize the reusability to share information in these cases can be constrained, but anything you're able to share that might help further our investigation here could potentially enable additional reviews and sharing on our side. Here's the thing. They're not discussing, like, porn. They're not disrupting currency and scams. All of this is about undesirable political speech. Despite Twitter's pushback, the FBI repeatedly requested information from Twitter that Twitter had already made clear it will not share outside of normal legal channels. In terms of VoIP usage, Twitter requires people registering an account to confirm either an email address or a phone number. And in the course of using Twitter, we may require account holders to confirm a phone number if we detect any indication of suspicious activity originating from their account. Some of the phone numbers we observed associated with these accounts appear to be linked to VoIP phone providers, a relatively common tactic of obtaining phone numbers from the person's account information. As for the VPN information, after consulting with so-and-so, we would need legal process to provide further information about the IPs, subnets providers, etc., associated with the authentication IPs from these accounts. Hi, y'all. Thank you again for taking the time to look into this matter. We really appreciate it. When available, I have follow-up questions I'm hoping you can answer based on my understanding. Twitter observed some of the accounts using VPNs and VoIPs as a way to obfuscate their online activities. Based on what you're seeing, would you be able to advise how the account holders were using VoIP on Twitter's platform? Also, well, I understand obtaining the actual VPN IP addresses associated with the protected accounts would likely require a legal process. Would Twitter be open to sharing which service providers those VPN IP addresses resolved to? Please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you in advance for your time. Holy crap. Damn. And this on what grounds, though, did they need any of that information? Then in July 2020, the FBI's Elvis Chan arranges for temporary top security clearance for Twitter executives so the FBI can share information about threats to the upcoming election. What level of information that needed to be shared with Twitter? Like, this is just weird to me. And again, none of this was about avoiding cryptocurrencies. None of this was about avoiding child porn. All of this was related to political speech that they did not like. That's all on his lines. I gotta get some eats before long. It's gonna be time for me to go to work. So I'm gonna put myself away for just a little bit. I'll put a note here for where I'm at. All right, I'm back here. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I feel like I'm reading conflicting information about what they've shared with the government and what they haven't shared with the government. But wow, why should we trust any of the Twitter executives with top clearance information? That's just. You gotta understand that people in power, they rub shoulders with all kinds of people. And it's a security concern. I don't know. So the FBI can share information about threats to the upcoming elections. Since I brought up the security clearance during our call, I don't think we have anyone at Twitter who has a permanent security clearance. Correct me if I'm wrong. What I would propose in the 30 days out from the election, we get you temporary clearance. You get to pick who that would be. Let me know what you think. They get to pick? The FBI isn't going to say, oh, we are only going to trust this person with this special kind of clearance. No, you get to pick. What the WTF? That's how you just randomly give out hell. Hey, Twitter said we trust this person with top clearance access temporarily. What the? Oh. I just can't believe this. On August 11th, 2020, the FBI's Chan shared information with Twitter's raw relating to the Russian hacking organization APT-28. Although the FBI's secure one-way communication channel through the FBI's secure one-way communications channel Teleporter. This teleporter is just, I don't. Why is teleporter a thing? You see, the reason why I don't understand the teleporter is a thing is because, well,
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm kind of ignorant. I mean, but hey, I got this going.
Looking zazzy as hell today.
Looking zazzy as hell today. Yes, we are. We don't understand how these teleporter shit works and why it's a thing because, you know.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
But you know, we're
Looking zazzy as hell today.
So let's see what this said. I've got more information to share with you via teleporter. You'll see an email from it shortly so you can download the document. Thanks. Al Khan, in advance of this week's meeting, I'm going to be sending you 3 messages through the FBI application called Teleporter. You get a link from no reply at teleporter01.org. Guess it's a good thing that we can't reply to that email. So they didn't redact it. Oh gosh. Which will expire in 24 hours. It's like you remember the whole thing from Inspector Gadget, another old spy genre. This message will self-destruct in 24 hours or immediately after opening it. You know. Please download the document when you get a chance. The documents will not denote the actors, so I'm providing them here. A-FITF topic B-APT28 C-Sandworm. We will be discussing A and B, but don't have anything additional for C at this point. Thanks. What is the fuck does any of that mean? So strange. So very, very strange. I don't know what it means. I want to know what it means, and I don't. Okay, here we go. Recently, Aurora told Kara Swisher that he had been primed to think that the Russian hacking group APT-28, so that's a Russian hacking group, before news of the Hunter Biden laptop came out. When it did what I said, it set off every single one of my family tuned APT-28 hack and leak campaign alarm bells. What?
APT-20, we learned about DC leaks, and we learned about the intersection between APT-28, a unit of Russian military intelligence, a hacking group, and so the morning of the Hunter Biden story in the New York Post happens, and it was weird, right? We didn't know what to believe. We didn't know what was true. There was smoke, and ultimately for me, it didn't reach a place where I was comfortable removing this content from Twitter, but it set off every single one of my finely tuned APT-28 hack and leak campaign alarm bells.
So it looked
finely tuned.
Everything about it looked like a hack and leak. We learn about DC leaks, and we learn about the intersection between APT-28, a unit of Russian military intelligence, a hacking group, and so the morning of the Hunter Biden story in the New York Post happens, and it was weird, right? We didn't know what to believe. We didn't know what was true. There was smoke, and ultimately for me, it didn't reach a place where I was comfortable.
My question is that how do people like Baker? How does he become one of the most powerful people in the U.S. intel community? How does that happen? Is it just because that he's been around for 30 years? Has become valuable because overall he's got contacts at CNN, he's got contacts at Bridgewater, he's got contacts at Brookings Institute, And then he's got contacts at the FBI. As general counsel of the FBI, Baker played a central role in making cases internally for investigation of Donald Trump. Baker wasn't the only senior FBI exec involved in the Trump investigation to go to Twitter. Don Burton, the former deputy chief of staff to FBI, had James Comey, who initiated the investigation of Trump, joined the Twitter in 2019 as director of strategy. Now, I mean, I don't really care what kind of job these people get once they leave government. I mean, they're allowed to get normal jobs just like the rest of us. And with their experience, it's not like they're going to get a job at Walmart. So. But here's what's interesting. As of 2020, there were so many former FBI employees, BU alumni, working at Twitter that they had created their own private Slack channel and a crib sheet to onboard new FBI arrivals? What the hell? What was this? Hey, Jim, so excited you are here. I am no longer the newest BU alum. Wow. Here is the BU to Twitter translation chart. I mentioned adding Dawn so she can add correct. Again, welcome. Super pumped to work with you again. Climate survey. Peru, they called it the AES. On Twitter, it was the Pulse. Internet homepage, red side homepage is what they call it in the Peru. Where they call it the birdhouse. Just interesting. Okay. Efforts continued to influence Twitter's role Roth. In September 2020, Roth participated in an Aspen Institute tabletop exercise on a potential hack and dump operation related to Hunter Biden. The goal was to shape how the media covered it and how social media carried it. Okay. Why is this a thing? Why did they have tabletops about this crap? I don't understand. Aspen Digital Hack and Dump Working Group, September 2020, exercised the Burisma League. Anonymous website, BidenCrimes.info, and a Twitter account, Hunter Lulz, began posting documents that purport to be from Burisma tied to Hunter Biden. Splashed across the top of the site in English, Joe Biden betrayed America before for cash. He'll do it again. Initially, the documents, mostly in Ukrainian, appeared to be minutes of vigorous Burisma board meetings, internal emails, and financial records. There is initially no sign of a smoking gun. Note the website appears to have been first registered in 2016. No ownership information is public. The Twitter account was created in 2014, just before Hunter joined the Burisma board. It has tweeted once and follows one person. Foster Friends discuss Biden crimes info and at 7 a.m. Block real Donald Trump. Tweets 6 minutes later. Is Joe Biden to be friends of all time? Check out Hunter Lulz. So, was this... I don't think this is... Okay. The organizer was Vinland Schiller, the former CEO of NPR, former head of news at Twitter, former general manager of the New York Times, former chief digital officer of NBC News. Attendees included Meta/FB's head of security policy and the top national security reporters for the New York Times and WAPO. Damn. By mid-September 2020, Chan and Roth had set up an encrypted message network so employees from the FBI and Twitter could communicate. This is just... weird to me that any company needs that. They also agreed to create a virtual war room for all the industry plus FBI and ODNI, Office of the Director of National Intelligence. What? Why was this a thing? Why did they need to go through all this? What? Hi, Yol. Thanks for the response. I have additional questions regarding them. I'm aware the industry is meeting about this on Friday, so you may not have any clarification until then. We can discuss during and after our scheduled meeting, depending on what your schedule looks like. It will only be one-way communication from the USG to the industry. It seems like it should at least be FBI and CISA. We can give you everything we're seeing from the FBI and use agencies. KISA will know what is going on in each state via Homeland Security information. However, how will the industry partners amicate back with the FBI and KISA? For the FBI, will you use the pre-established general use? For example, you or Angela will email directly. If that is the case, that will work for the FBI, but I don't know what communication channels you have with KISA. Or will the industry partners rely on the FBI to be the belly button for the you? We can do that as well. We just need to know the industry group's preference. The cat is trying to walk on my computer again. This is just wild. This is just wild. Sounds good. We would like to establish one signal for the FBI San Francisco and one for FBI HQ. The fifth unit chiefs may want to be on the channel as well. I will provide companies with their command post shift roster so you know who's on shift for any given day. Wow. I don't understand. And all of this was done because somebody might jokingly post a tweet about the election being on a Wednesday instead of a Tuesday. I just don't understand. Then on September 15th, 2020, the FBI's Lord Dimlow who heads up the Foreign Influence Task Force, and Elvis Chan request to give classified briefing for Jim Baker without any other Twitter staff, such as Roll, not present. Well, the thing of it is that, like, if Yoel Roth didn't know any about it, then what was Jim Baker supposed to do with that information? Like, I don't understand. Hi, Jim and so I hope all is well. Can you help Laura Dimloff and Elvis Chan of the FBI schedule a classified briefing for Jim? They would likely meet earlier next week if possible. So, what is it that Jim Baker would do with that information? Because wouldn't he have to go to Roth and be like, hey, based on this briefing, you need to do X, Y, Z? I don't. On October 14th, shortly after in New York Post publishes its Hunter Biden laptop story, Roth says, it isn't clearly violative of our hacking materials policy, nor is it clearly in violation of anything else. But yes, this feels like a somewhat subtle leak operation. Hence, we are aware of this and are tracking closely at this time, given the alleged provenance of the material. A laptop mysteriously dropped off from a repair shop in Delaware isn't clearly violative of our hack material policy, nor is it clearly in violation of anything else. That said, the questionable origins here are obviously causing a lot of people to make reference to 2016. In my view on this, unsubstantiated by hard evidence as of yet, is that it feels a lot like a somewhat subtle leak operation. We'll be developing a recommendation for what, if anything, we want to do over the course of the day today. You shouldn't have been doing anything. The New York Post should have just been allowed to share their story like they would share any other story. In response to Roth, Baker repeatedly insisted the Hunter Biden materials were either faked, hacked, or both, in a violation of Twitter policy. Baker does so over email and a Google Doc on October 14th and 15th. To Baker, on additional comment, I've seen some reliable cyber questioning the authenticity of the emails in another way, i.e., there's no metadata pointing to them. Has been released, and the formation looks like they could be complete fabrications, but they weren't. And these classified briefings, was this coming from the FBI for him to tell him this? This is hard to read. Our teams continue to investigate the origin of the material, including the reporting. I'm struggling to understand the policy basis for marking this as unsafe, and I think the best explanation argument for this externally would be that we're waiting to understand if the story is a result of hacked materials. We'll face hard questions on this. We don't have some kind of solid reasoning for marking this unsafe. No. Really? You don't think? Trenton Kennedy, some stuff is marked out here. Will we also mark similar stories as unsafe? Fox News, political Hunter Biden emails, Senate Homeland Security Committee investigating hard drive laptop. So even Fox News is getting mentioned here. You're off. The policy is hacked materials, though, as discussed, this is an emerging situation where their facts remain unclear. Given the severe risk here in the lessons of 2016, we're on this item, including a warning of preventing the contents from being amplified. Vijay Agad, what is the warning that will come up? When you click the link, you'll see the generic unsafe URL message. Not ideal, but it's the only thing we have. Whatever we do in the columns, this will become a bias claim for Jack pre-hearing immediately. But makes it clear we're proactively but cautiously interpreting this through the lens of our hacked materials policy and allowing a link with a warning and significant reduction of spread. To Anne's point, one can truthfully claim that this is part of the policy, i.e., as part of our approach to addressing potentially hacked material related stories on Twitter while our investigation is ongoing. Jim Baker, privileged and confidential. I support the well, it's no longer confidential, dude. It's all out there in the public for to see. I support the conclusion that we need more facts to assess whether the materials were hacked. At this stage, however, it is reasonable for us to assume that they may have been and that the caution is warranted. There are some facts that indicate the materials may have been hacked, while there are others indicating that the computer was either abandoned and or the owner consented to allow the repair shop to access it for at least some purposes. We simply need more information. Okay, I tried to verify that as best as I could. It didn't really work. And yet, it's inconceivable Baker believed the Hunter Biden emails were either fake or hacked. The New York Post had included a picture of the receipt signed by Hunter Biden, and an FBI subpoena showed that the agency had taken possession of the laptop in December 2019. Like, really, dude? He's a lying liar who lies. As for the FBI, it likely would have taken a few hours for it to confirm that the laptop belonged to Hunter Biden. Indeed, it only took a few hours. It only took a few days for journalist Peter Schweizer to prove it.
The committee had released Hunter Biden's travel records. So we were able to take the laptop and say, when he says he's in Dubai, does that correspond with the Secret Service travel records? If he's emailing somebody and saying, I'm in Hong Kong, does that line up? In each and every case, it lined up. Then we compared the laptop to the suspicious activity reports, the SARS reports. When the emails referenced $5 million being wired to Hunter Biden's business, does that correspond with the SARS? And again, it lined up completely. And the laptop really came out at about the same time as the Secret Service travel logs and the wire transfers. So it really would not have been possible for somebody to create thousands of emails simultaneously to demonstrate it. Then the final thing we did, Michael, is we looked at Hunter Biden's laptop emails and we compared them with a collection that we'd received from Hunter Biden's business partners, a guy named Bevan Cooney, who's in jail. He shared his Gmail account with us, and we looked at it. The Hunter Biden laptops that have Bevan Cooney correspondence on them, do they actually line up with Bevan Cooney's Gmail account? And again, they did 100%. Now, I was able to do this in Florida with my researchers. The New York Times, the Washington Post, CBS News, ABC News could have done the same thing. But they were not interested in this story. They did not pursue this story. If you had told me that information would come forward that Jimmy Carter's family or Ronald Reagan's family was receiving tens of millions of dollars from Russian businesses that were linked to the KGB, it would have set off alarm bells, rightfully so, to all kinds of news outlets. That's really the equivalent of what we're talking about here. And yet the media somehow convinced themselves that this was not an important or an interesting story.
Oh. Wow. It's wild. Just wild. It goes from bad to worse, y'all.
When the laptop
It just
dropped
goes
in
from bad to worse.
2020.
By 10 a.m., Twitter execs had bought into the wild hack and dump story. The suggestion from Epsters, which rings true, is there was a hack that happened separately, and they loaded the hacked materials on the laptop that magically prepared it. What? Wait, what? What? The suggestion from experts, which rings true, is there was a hack that happened separately, and they loaded the hacked materials on the laptop that magically repaired it. Wait, what? What? Hi, folks. Lots of good discussion of this case in the doc, sharing a bit of additional context about what we're recommending this act, about why we're recommending this action. Excuse me. The key factor informing our approach is consensus from experts monitoring election security and disinformation that this looks a lot like a hack and leak that learned from the 2016 WikiLeaks approach in our policy changes. The suggestion from experts, which rings true, is there was a hack that happened separately, and they loaded the hack materials on the laptop that magically appeared at a repair shop in Delaware, and coincidentally reviewed in a very invasive way by someone who coincidentally then handed the... Oh my god. It was coincidentally reviewed in a very invasive way by someone who coincidentally then handed the materials to Rudy Giuliani. It was so invasive. It was so very, very invasive. It was so invasive that at the time, you could only wonder.
You like that? You like that?
When something is invasive, we like it so much.
You like that? You like that?
Very invasive. It wasn't just invasive, it was very invasive. I mean, it was up there right in y'all's fucking faces. By someone who coincidentally then handed the material to Giuliani. Why did they italicize those two words? What? Oh, get serious. We saw in this space in 2016. We're recommending a warning plus de-amplification pending further information. If additional information emerges, the established origins of the materials more conclusively, we could either reverse this action and remove the warning, or escalate our enforcement, should it cross the line fully into hacked materials. It's not fully hacked materials, it's only partially hacked materials. What?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
I mean...
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
That's the only explanation that I don't understand. Partially hacked materials is that I am again retarded.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Alright. We recognize that the product experience in the warning label is less than ideal, and we will surface the feedback with the experience team again as evidence for why we need more robust URL management options. Based on discussion with Vijaya, we will move forward with this action once we get sign-off from comms. Oh my gosh. At 3:38 p.m. that same day, October 14th, Baker arranges a phone conversation with Matthew J. Perry in the office of the General Counsel of the FBI. Okay. The influence operation persuaded the Texas X that the Hunter Biden laptop did not come from a whistleblower. Once linked to a Hill article based on a WAPO article from October 15th, which falsely suggested Giuliani's leak of the laptop had something to do with Russia. It's always Russia, Russia, Russia. Or maybe it's just...
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of retarded.
Sure it isn't that? Sure it isn't that? I think it's the latter. I'd also note the seemingly well-timed briefings from government sources highlighting concerns about the source of the hard drive, which would support an assessment that's neither whistleblower or dissident content. Oh my gosh. What? Why was it so hard to decide what to do with this? It's like... Intelligence officials warned Trump that Giuliani was target of a Russian influence campaign. White House was warned Giuliani was target of a Russian intelligence operation to feed misinformation to Trump. Oh my gosh. There is evidence that FBI agents have warned elected officials of foreign influence with the primary goal of leaking the information to the news media. This is a political dirty trick used to create the perception of impropriety. In 2020, the FBI gave a briefing to Senator Grassley and Johnson, claiming evidence of Russian interference into their investigation of Hunter Biden. The briefing angered the senators who say it was done to discredit their investigation. My goodness. The unnecessary FBI briefing that provided Democrats and liberal media the vehicle to spread their false narrative that our work advances Russian disinformation. Why am I just now hearing about this? We respect the substance of the briefing. It consisted primarily of information that we already knew, and the information contained into our Biden investigation. We made clear to you at the briefing that it was not relevant to the substance of our work. In response, you stated that the FBI has not attempted to squash, curtail, or interfere in the investigation in any way. Sure they weren't. Do you know how many innocent people are behind bars because of this method of planning stories and using said stories as evidence? They set off the chain of events and watch hell break loose, then swoop in like some heroes. I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, could be. Interesting theory there. But that was last posted 4 minutes ago. Oh, here we go. 1 minute ago. 44. Notably, the FBI General Counsel Jim Baker was investigated twice in 2017 and 2019 for leaking information to the news media. You're saying he's under criminal investigation, and that's why you're not letting him answer Meadows asked? Yes. Oh boy. Oh boy. I mean, I don't know. It's possible that if you're not under investigation at some point, you're doing something wrong. I suppose it is possible that if you're in the FBI, part of the FBI in some way, for as long as that guy is, at some point somebody's going to investigate you for something. I mean, that kind of seems inevitable to me. But man, this is. Wow. Just the coordinated effort to just try to find reasons for this to get squashed is amazing to me. That is wow. In the end, the FBI influence campaign aimed at executive news media, Twitter, and other social media companies worked. They censored and discredited the Hunter Biden laptop. By December 2020, Baker and his colleagues even sent a note of thanks to the FBI for its work. Oh, God. Thanks, Angela. I'll sign it as well. With scale, please. Prepare a draft for Sean and me to look at. Also, we should be mindful that the letter could be leaked and will be subject to FOI. No, really. So we should prepare them with that expectation in mind. Wow. Thank you so much, Sean. Please let me know if you would like me to draft the letter or if you would like to draft it. I really appreciate this. I hope all is well. The election has taken our lives from most dear, especially the past few months. Twitter was on the front lines protecting our users and the public at large from misinformation and disinformation campaigns that had the potential to negatively affect the fair election process. Yeah. Wow. What is not as widely known as the role Twitter played in helping the FBI track and identify violent actors who wanted to portray domestic terrorism at polling stations and ballot counting facilities. Obviously, the work is close hold and we will never get public credit, but I'd like to thank our FBI counterparts who worked so well with us this election cycle. What is he talking about? Elvis Chan said this. Wow. Where did we see any evidence so far in any of these Twitter files that Twitter helped with that? And where is any evidence that anybody was ever arrested? That's wild. 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 We had an unprecedented national security and law enforcement response that was the result of a tight, well-coordinated partnership with the FBI that was based on trust. Would you both consider signing a letter of thanks for their willingness to partner on matters of election integrity and public safety? You know, all the work that was done related to China, Russia, and Iran. You may not as familiar with public safety work. Twitter provided information related to kidnapping plots of the MI of Michigan and VA governors, as well as the QAnon members who drove to a counting ballot facility after making public threats of violence. We had to work in real time with the FBI, and we were able to get the necessary information that prevented harm. Here is a list of those we worked with. Okay. I would have to look at the evidence to know that they really helped prevent anything violent. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. The FBI's influence campaign may have been helped by the fact that it was paying Twitter millions of dollars for its staff time. What? I am happy to report we have collected. Holy crap. Jim, FYI, 2019 Scale instituted a reimbursement program for a legal process response from the FBI. Prior to the start of the program, Twitter chose not to collect under the statutory rights of reimbursement for the time spent processing requests from the FBI. I'm happy to report that we have collected since October 2019. This money is used by LP for things like TTR and other LE-related projects, like training, tooling, etc. Wait a minute, what? They get reimbursed for this shit? Wow. I mean, I guess if you have designated staff that just absolutely has to interact with the FBI, maybe they should get reimbursed for it, but damn. And the pressure from the FBI on social media platform continues. In August 2022, Twitter execs prepared for a meeting with the FBI, whose goal was to convince us to produce on more FBI EDRs. EDRs are emergency disclosure requests, a warrantless search. Wow. Team, I have an advanced prep call today with Blake of the FBI to your 9/6 meeting with them. Here are some takeaways. Attending the FBI side will be Blake, plus people from the InTalk and perhaps others from Violent Crimes at HQ. Their goal of the meeting is to convince us to produce on more FBI EDRs. They will try to do this by having InTalk educate us on the threats they are seeing, their procedures and process for responding to tips, and what their standards are for when they seek EDRs. They plan on bringing statistics on our rate of compliance, which they labeled variable, and several forehead knockers, situations where the FBI view there is no reason why we would not have complied. They repeatedly emphasize Twitter's lower level compliance in comparison with other platforms. I kindly emphasize back that they were pleased, stressing that our team is not going to be a good strategy to move. I kindly emphasize back they were pleased, stressing that our team is not going to be a good strategy to move the needle in their direction. Huh. Its polls make it seem like this will be a confrontational meeting, which I do not think it will be. Instead, I get the feeling they are genuinely baffled and frustrated at the rate of success, as they say, is so low at Twitter. On our side, I think it'd be helpful to have statistics at our fingertips about how the FBI has far and away greater rate of production than anyone else. I assume this is true. It might also be helpful to get a sense of the reasons we are denying their request. Matt suggested that it was our high requirement of imminence, which is the narrative. I expect the team will push, so it would be interesting to see if that's actually the issue or if it's something else. I realize no one has time to do anything extra, so they're just nice. So these are just nice to haves, not must haves. You are all perfectly fine to just go into the meeting and listen and say thanks so much for your time, your input, and leave. But if you have interest in considering their version of the fast, it would probably be helpful to do a little digging on our side. In response to the Twitter files or election of high-level FBI agents at Twitter, Jim Jordan said, I was about whether the government was running a misinformation operation on we the people. Well, you know, if they wanted people to constantly try and believe that it was hacked material, then, yeah, I would say that there was a disinformation campaign. I really hate that they dropped this when they did, because I have to get ready for work, y'all. I am so sorry. This has been really interesting and fascinating. Thank you all for stopping in, for those that did. And just remember, this might be you. This tiny, tiny little speck might be you. And this might be the universe. But it takes a lot of tiny little specks to make the universe what it is that we need. And you are a valuable, valuable part of making the universe what it is. And we need you. So, God bless y'all.